everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Live It Up. This is the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that really feels good, because that's what we ultimately all want, to feel good. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson, and to my right, we have the lovely Amy Ellingson. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. You're going to be here with for the whole show.
The whole
today.
show.
All right.
Can
good.
you even handle it?
I can. And we're gonna later on. We are going to talk about health, right, in the second section.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, health is the first wealth. So stick around and learn something new. But before we get to that, I want to remind you that if you have questions that you would like us to answer on or off the show, you can email them directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. You don't need to suffer. There are answers and solutions and ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. So, it's at this point in our show where we usually answer an email, but today, in the spirit of feeling good and focusing on what is working well, we want to share some good news. In a world where much of the news creates uncertainty or feels kind of disappointing or bleak or depressing, we want to share with you some really feel-good news, because whatever we focus on, we feel. Whatever we focus on expands, and whatever we focus on, we manifest. So, let's get to some good news.
Alrighty.
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I read an article last night about a cool company, a wind farm in Smola, Norway. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it says Smola, Norway. Mm-hmm. Anyways, this big wind farm, and they've got the big wind turbines, and apparently those things, while they work really well and serve our world really well, also birds run into the big blades.
Yeah.
And so a lot of birds die because of that. So some engineer figured out that if you paint one of the blades black, it allows the birds to see that, and it's reduced the death toll in birds by 70% or something like that. So that feels good. That's cool news, right?
Yeah, that's really cool news.
We like
because
that.
there are more and more wind farms going up. So
Exactly.
I know. I think I read it too, and they said they were hopeful that more engineers would try that. I think that they weren't sure if every species, they see different things differently, so they don't know if it would help every kind of bird, but it may help a lot.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We come up with a solution, and then that solution has its own set of challenges, and so it's just on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
But yeah, how about you?
Well, we also the same reading that we did in the last couple of days, that the continent of Africa is now more than 95% immunized polio. And so they've actually officially declared the continent free of wild polio. I think there are still some cases that are related to some of the vaccines, because the vaccines that are oral actually are live virus, blah, blah, blah. But the continent of Africa has been declared polio free. And that has been a really big commitment by multiple organizations to make that happen. So there are just a few parts in the world that still have wild polio, meaning polio that just happens to people. So that's really awesome,
yeah,
because
really
that is a devastating illness. Like, a lot of people in our country are still alive today that were around during the polio epidemic, and it was really devastating. So
yeah, good. What else?
We also read something cool that in outside of Oroville, California, Highway 162, that they repaved a stretch of the highway using 100% recycled materials. And I believe, they used the PET plastic, the PET plastic that's usually found in water bottles, to help bind up this recycled asphalt.
Yeah.
And the company is called Technosoil, and they did this stretch. And I think that, so for per mile, it used up 150,000 plastic bottles, and it resists cracking even better than regular paving does, and can last 2 to 3 times longer. And I think there was going to be another one that they did someplace, or they have done.
Yeah, or they have one scheduled to.
And so they're hoping, because that would be a really cool way to reuse some of those countless number of plastic bottles that are around the world.
Yeah, millions and millions every single day.
Yeah.
So yeah, very cool. I love that. I want to share a cool piece of feel-good news. There's a woman. Her name is Jessica McClard of Fayetteville, Arkansas, and she did something really cool. And I just love this story because it's on a small scale. It's so easy to do, but you never know what the ripple effect is going to be. And so this woman, she was out running, and she saw one of those little library pantries that sometimes people will put up on the side of the road. They're like, take a book and leave a book.
Yeah.
and they're just like, small things like this.
They're just in a neighborhood.
Yeah. So she was, during the time of COVID, she was out running and saw one of those and had the idea of like, hey, what if I put one of those up and it had food in it? Because a lot of people are dealing with food insecurity right now. So she did that, and she had some people pitch in, and they loaded it up with food. And then apparently somebody else heard about it in the country, and they put one up, and then another person. And so to date, around the world, there's been like 3,000 on record of these cool food pantries that individual citizens have put up on their own dime as a way of being part of the solution, which I just think is so cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Let's see, we have time for one more or two more quick ones. Costa Rica. I love this. So they, for years, they had a major deforestation issue in their country, and where they cut down, like, I think it was like 50% of their forests. Mm-hmm. And so over the decades, they've regrown most of their forests because the government created a program to pay farmers to actually regrow and protect their forests and all the watersheds. And so many of the farmers down there are actually, they make their money from this program of growing the forests back, which is like so unique, right?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Okay, we got time for one more.
Oh yeah. So in this news we read that the U.S. Energy Information Administration, I didn't even know there was such a thing, says that for the first time, U.S. will use renewable power will provide more electricity in 2020 than coal.
Yeah.
So that's a huge switch.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a major deal.
It's a major deal.
Right. It doesn't mean that coal's going away, but this is a historic moment where green energy is going to produce more electricity.
Well, and we're so lucky around here with our water powered energy. I mean, our hydroelectric plants provide us with inexpensive and abundant electricity.
Abundant.
And really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, all that feels good, and we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back to talk about something in the area of health. Yep. Stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. I'm Fletcher Ellingson, and we got Amy Ellingson here. Hello.
Hello.
Again. And what are we talking about today?
Shingles.
Shingles.
My daughter was like, no one wants to hear about shingles.
Really? Absolutely.
I think people want to hear about shingles because it's quite common.
Okay, well then if it's common, we need to know about it. Yeah. So I've heard about it, but I'm not really sure what it is. So what is it?
Yeah. So shingles is a painful rash that is caused by the varicella zoster virus. So that's the same virus that causes chickenpox. So varicella is chickenpox. Shingles is also called zoster or herpes zoster, and it's called herpes zoster because it is actually in the family of herpes viruses. Herpes viruses have multiple different viruses in them. So the varicella virus that causes shingles is the same exact virus that causes chickenpox. So after you've had chickenpox and you're all healed up from chickenpox, the virus lays dormant in your body, near your spinal cord and brain, in your nerve cells. And then years later, the virus can become reactivated in the form of shingles.
All right, I have a question about that.
Yes.
You said it lays dormant.
Yes.
Does it lay dormant in everybody?
Yes.
So everybody who has had chickenpox has this dormant...
Well, I guess we don't know for sure, but probably yes.
Okay, or at least the majority or whatever.
Well, I assume everyone.
Okay.
It's just that whether it gets activated or not.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So you have to have had chickenpox to get the shingles.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have never had chickenpox and you're exposed to this virus, you will get chickenpox.
If you are exposed to shingles?
Yes.
Got it.
Because I was going to talk about that later, but yeah, it's the same virus.
Okay, got it. So shingles, kind of a weird name. What's up with that?
So the common name for that shingles that we use derives from a Latin word called cingulus, which I don't know how to speak Latin, but it's a variant of a Latin word that means girdle. And that's usually because a lot of times people will get it in a wrap, it'll wrap around their torso.
Oh, like the whole rash will...
Yeah, it doesn't go on both sides, but it's just one side, but it's in a line, kind of. And then zoster is actually from the Greek word zoster, I don't know how you say it in Greek, but that means belt or girdle because of the same kind of thing.
Okay. how would somebody know if they have shingles?
So so people will usually develop like some nerve symptoms, like nerve pain, which would be pain, numbness, tingling, itching, sensitivity to touch. Like you might have it on your shoulder, you could have it here on your back, and you could feel a little achy or sick, but otherwise you may just have these skin symptoms, and then usually within a few days you will get blisters,
okay.
and then that's shingles.
So that discomfort comes before like there's a visual sign of it?
Yeah, and so actually there are some people that never even get a rash, and that's very confusing to the provider trying to see you, because people could have pain in their shoulder or pain in their neck or pain right here, and then they never get a rash, but the pain goes away. But if it was like a nerve pain, that could have been kind of shingles trying to come out but just not coming out all the way.
And is the pain you're talking about, it's not like an itchy rash pain?
Well, it can be, I don't know if some people have never had nerve pain, but nerve pain is usually, people will describe it like an itching, but it's not a superficial itch, it's like an inside itch, or it can be like a burning feeling, or like where, if you ever had where a nerve feels irritated, it'd be the same kind of thing, where it feels really sensitive to touch, or kind of a tingling, burning, itching.
Got it, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else here? What does the rash look like?
Yeah, so usually it's a blistering rash on a red base. So the skin, so say you might have a patch like this big, and then which will be red, and then there'll be blisters on it. So what's pretty cool is the shingles rash only comes out in the line of a nerve. So it literally comes out right along a nerve root. So if you were to look at a map of nerve roots, they go on either side of your body. They don't ever cross the midline of your body.
Oh, that's why it's only halfway.
Yeah, and so it actually goes right in line with a nerve that would be, if you were to look at the nerve, where the nerve is. So it's frequently on the torso. I have seen it on the arm. I've seen it on the leg. It definitely can be in the face as well. And that is where it can be kind of dangerous if it gets around your eye. It can be in your neck. It can be kind of everywhere, but usually the telltale sign is it does not cross the midline in most people. In almost all people, it's not going to go across.
And is it really prominent? Is it a prominent rash?
Well, it's so variable. Some people will have a big patch of red and then blisters, and then other people will just have a few tiny blisters, so it's really, really variable.
Okay.
Some people don't really know what it is. They're like, gosh, I've had this thing, and then all of a sudden like, oh my gosh, I have a blister back there. And then that could be shingles.
Got it. So how do you make the diagnosis?
So the diagnosis is almost always just based on what the rash looks like and what the patient is feeling. If we're not sure, which sometimes we're not sure, we take a little Q-tip and rub open one of the blisters to get the fluid on the Q-tip and send it in, and they can actually look for the varicella virus present in the fluid.
Okay. So let's talk about, so for chickenpox, you just get chickenpox, you kind of just let it go through its course, and there's not much you can do about it. What about shingles? What can you do about that?
Yeah, so there are treatments for shingles. I mean, nothing is 100%, but if you get treated promptly with medications that are available, it can speed up your healing and reduce the risk of having prolonged pain. And the medications are most effective if taken within 72 hours of noticing like your first blister. So it is important, if you do think you have shingles, I think it's important to be seen, really no matter what age you are or how bad it is. It's always helpful to be seen unless you're sure and it's maybe just on your leg or something. Otherwise, you should come in. So we use antiviral medication as the main kind of medication we use, and it actually stops the replication of this type of virus. It's the same medication we actually use for herpes because it is in the same family. Sometimes we will prescribe some topical treatments to help with the nerve pain, and we'll use oral nerve pain medication, because one of the reasons to treat shingles early is people can develop a condition called post-herpetic neuralgia, which just means like after the herpes infection neuralgia, like your nerve is irritated, and people can have prolonged pain due to some of the nerve damage. So that can be really bad for people. So it's good to try to get treated right away.
So that makes me ask the question: how long would it clear up on its own, or do you have to?
Yeah, no, it would clear up on its own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And like how long would that?
Well, I mean, you could be blistering for maybe a week-ish, and then it would take another couple weeks to go away. So usually, like, you might be dealing with it on some level for 1 to 4 weeks, but if you had the medication in time, then it should help get rid of that more quickly.
And here's something you may not have the answer to.
Yeah.
But do they know what activates it? What is dormant? What makes it wake up and get to work?
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a minute, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that has to do with your immune system.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll go to commercial. We'll come back and answer some of those other questions about shingles. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. I'm Fletcher Ellingson. This is Amy Ellingson. We're talking today about
Shingles.
Shingles, you heard it. Talking about shingles, not the kind on your roof, but the kind on your torso.
Body or wherever.
Yeah, wherever they show
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Okay. So I know people can't get chickenpox twice. I mean, at least that I know of. But what about shingles?
Yeah, so you can get shingles more than once, theoretically, because it's a reactivation of a virus that's dormant in your body. So if you had shingles, it's basically, it's out, it's activated, and then it just goes back to being dormant. So you could, but it's pretty unlikely. And some of that is because that when you do have a shingles outbreak, then it activates your immune system and has it help remember it for next time. Yeah.
Because somehow it kind of forgot.
Well, yeah, so your body has these memory cells, and if, depending on even like how you get a booster for some vaccines.
Yeah.
So if your immune system, if that response is like fast and comprehensive, then our body can do quite well with most things. But yeah, if it maybe that was so long ago, or it just, yeah, I don't know exactly the breakdown.
All right. So can anyone get shingles?
Well, anyone who's had chickenpox, like we said, can get shingles.
Mm-hmm.
And the chickenpox vaccine was licensed in 1995, and for probably since 2005-ish, I would say that it's become almost all kids that I see. I rarely see parents declining that vaccine anymore. They used to in the beginning. Everyone was used to their kids getting chickenpox, and it took a while for people to be on board with that. But I would say I don't see anyone really saying no to that anymore. So point being is that now the kids since 1995 have all been vaccinated. So it's going to be a different story, especially when they're a bit older. So about half the cases of shingles in the U.S. happen in people over age 50. Mm-hmm. So that is a risk factor. So once that generation of kids that maybe got the vaccine in 2005, when they turn 50, and we'll see what that's going to do to their rate of shingles. Mm-hmm. So besides age, another important risk factor is immunosuppression, or the fact if your immune system is not working as well as it should. So if patients are on long-term medications that affect their immune system, like chemotherapy or long-term steroids, that can be a problem. The other thing that we've talked about in this show is psychological stress, or physical stress. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're drinking too much, you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, anything that's going to affect your body's ability to mount an immune response. Because theoretically, if the virus started to kind of rear its head, your body could just squash it and not let it come out. Mm-hmm. So it's just like all kinds of other things we talked about, having a healthy immune system goes a long way.
So tell me, is having shingles serious?
Shingles can be definitely dangerous for some people if it covers a large surface of your body, which usually only happens if you have an immune system that's not working well. So say again, you have AIDS or you're on chemotherapy. I had a patient that presented who had shingles. It was the worst case I've ever seen. It was like covered so many different dermatomes. I mentioned it should come out in just one dermatome, but this woman had it in multiple dermatomes, and that was a red flag for me to think, gosh, that's weird. And she ended up having leukemia and didn't know it. So usually it's not going to be serious. It can be if it's over a large surface of your body. The other thing that can be dangerous is if it affects the eye, because actually you can get kind of blistering lesions on the surface of your eyeball.
Yikes.
And so it can cause vision loss. So you definitely, if it affects like the tip of your nose, or actually your eye, then you have to go see an eye doctor like right away and get your eye looked at. And then the only other main complication is that you can get infection from just an open, the blisters. So they can sometimes become infected with a bacteria.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nothing to mess around with then.
No, it's not fun.
Yeah. What about it being contagious? Like chickenpox is contagious, I know that, but what about shingles?
Yeah, so shingles is contagious in a different way than chickenpox is. Well, different and the same. So chickenpox is also contagious by saliva. And so if you cough, if you any respiratory droplets are in your saliva, it's contagious because you're actually quite sick with chickenpox. And as you know, right, it's all over your body. It's not one dermatome like shingles is. So with shingles, the only way you're contagious is in that fluid of those blisters. So if that fluid from that blister got on someone who never had the chickenpox vaccine, never had chickenpox, or has a suppressed immune system, they could get quite sick. But it's only contagious of what is in the blister.
So if let's say that case did happen,
Yes.
Would that person then present with shingles or chickenpox?
Well, if they've never had chickenpox before, if it's a new virus to their body, they will get chickenpox. And in an adult, chickenpox, that word is now sounding funny to me. I've been saying it so many times now. Chickenpox. If an adult gets chickenpox, it can be really serious because chickenpox can actually cause meningitis. It can be in someone's throat. I mean, it can just be really, really nasty. That's one of the reasons they created a vaccine for it. So that person, if they've never been exposed to it, they will get chickenpox.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So once the blister has scabbed over, you should be fine. If you can keep the lesions covered, you should be fine. But people, you just want to be careful. Okay.
So if you get it, why would somebody need to go to the doctor if they get it?
Well, like I said, if you present quickly, you can get a medication to help. Also, if as I mentioned, if it's around your eye or even on your face anywhere, you want to really make sure that it's, because the doctor will be able to tell if it's in the dermatome that can affect your eye, then you need to go see the eye doctor even if you don't feel like your eye is affected. Or if you're living with someone or going to be around someone with a weakened immune system, it's good to see somebody. Or if the rash is really bad and in more than one location, then you should go see somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said, but it can just take care of itself in a couple, 3 weeks.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Next question: are there ways to prevent shingles?
Yeah. So I think this is our last question. So 2 different ways. One is that if you have the vaccine for chickenpox when you're a child or as an adult, if you've never had chickenpox, then that theoretically should reduce your risk of shingles. We think it will, but we don't have a lot of data on that yet. The second thing is there are shingles vaccines. There are actually 2 of them. There was one called Zostavax, which was approved in 2006. It was a 1-shot series, but it has now been replaced kind of by the preferred one called Shingrix, which came out in 2017. It is a 2-shot series, and it is much more effective than the Zostavax. And you can get that starting at age 50, and it's very effective to prevent shingles.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Lots of new information again. But we're at the end of our show, so it's time for you to get out there, be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You've got something to offer this world, and we believe in you.